My name is Crystal Morris, and hope lives here.
I'm Ruby Whitfield, and hope is here.
My name is Jimmy T. Jones, and hope lives here.
My name is Jacqueline Jones, and hope lives here. I want to thank you all for joining us on Promising Me Unleashed tonight for our conversation themed so appropriately in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Look out, cancer, because hope lives here. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. We had a wonderful conversation with some sister survivors. In their own words, they're going to share with us just a portion of their story. So just sit back, listen, learn, and know that there's hope for you as well. Crystal Morris. Crystal, if you would please just share a little portion of your story and your survival from breast cancer.
Yes. I was actually living in California. I moved out there because I wanted to be a star. So moved on out there. And it was maybe about 3 years after I had moved out there. I got pregnant. And throughout the pregnancy, I started getting like a little lump up under my armpit. First, it was like kind of this feeling in my breast, and then it started moving to my armpit, but we're just going, not thinking anything of it. Kept getting bigger, kept ignoring it. My son, who's 17 now, praise God, but at the time he was 3 months. I'd waited that long to actually go get it checked out. And by the time they checked it out, it was stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So it had spread from my breast to my lymph nodes, then throughout my lungs. And of course, beating myself up because it's like, if I had just went sooner, if I had just checked it out sooner. Praise God to my mom, because she was a prayer warrior. Because the doctors were pretty much saying that, you won't survive this. It's almost like it's kind of too far gone. So I heard that. And to me, that's the truth. It was coming from a doctor. So that's, got to be the truth. And my mother just refused to believe that to be the truth. She jumped on that plane. She came out to California. She anointed my apartment. She said, no. And I'm sure she was saying that hope lives here. Mm-hmm. So we prayed, got into NIH and Johns Hopkins. Praise God. So I was able to actually choose. So went to Johns Hopkins for treatment. And the oncologist there was young. And she just said, you know what? You're going to live for these kids. Because I had an older son that was 13. And she said, you're going to live for these kids. So they did, I did a couple of rounds of different chemo and surgery, went through the whole gambit. And it did come back 2 years later, but did radiation, and I switched over to a holistic way of living. And praise God, I'm still here.
Yes, awesome. Oh, Crystal, I mean, wow, that's all I can say. Just the mercy and the favor of God on your life. Crystal, how old were you at that time?
I was 32. So I was pretty young for that type of cancer. I was pretty young. Yeah.
Wow. So what did that feel like when it returned? How was that?
I must say that by then I was in a much different place. because when it first came, I didn't have the spiritual strength. I just didn't have it. But since I knew that they kept telling me it was incurable, that, the possibility of it coming back was always going to be, so it was kind of always in the back of my mind. So when it felt like I was always waiting for another shoe to drop, because it's just kind of like, because you go every 6 months, So when it came back, it was a little scary, but since he brought me through the worst of it the first time, I thought, well, okay, well, you did it the first time. So I'm hoping you're going to do it again. So I had much more faith the second time around. And then also I thought, you know what, let me go a different approach. And that's what made me reach out to the naturopathic doctor.
Okay.
To kind of add that on there. So it's like, okay, let's try something new.
Yeah. And you know what? And we're going to talk about that because science does what it does and nature does what it does. And we know that God does what he does. So we're going to come back to that specifically. Wow. That's all I can say. 2-time breast cancer survivor, metastatic, stage 4, the first go round. And did they stage you the second go round?
They did not, because once you're staged at that, they always kind of stage you.
Okay.
At that.
Okay. We're going to come back to that nutritional piece because that was of great value to me. And now we're going to switch gears just a little bit because Ruby Whitfield is also a 2-time cancer survivor. Ruby, just share a portion of your story with us.
My name is Ruby Whitfield, and I am a 2-time cancer survivor. In 2011, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I did not know I had it. I was going on with my regular routine, working out, running, jogging, physical activity, love working out. And so, but I was suffering with allergies. So I went to see an allergist. He gave me different tests and he tested me for, sinus and trying to figure out what I was allergic to. And he said, you're not allergic to anything. I said, but every morning I wake up, I'm so stuffed up. So I figured I got some kind of sinus infection. He said, yes, you do, but your thyroid gland is swollen. And I said, really? He said, yes. So he said, look like you got a nodule on your thyroid gland. So he sent me back to my doctor and they, referred me to a specialist at Washington Hospital Center. I went in and they looked at me. They said, you're a healthy young lady. You look so young to have such a nasty thyroid. They said, your thyroid is nasty looking. So they did a biopsy on my thyroid, and the thyroid gland on my left side, it was large. You can see that not like the nodule was sticking out, but I hadn't even noticed it. So then when they did the biopsy, they showed one on my right side, which are smaller ones. And so they end up doing a total thyroid gland removal. So I went through that. At that time, they didn't have the medicine for me. So what I had to do was prepare all my food naturally. They gave me a menu with all the foods. I couldn't eat no processed foods. I could not eat any store-bought like ketchup, mustard, or anything. I made all my stuff. But I went through this. I didn't have to go through chemo. I didn't have to go to radiation. They removed the thyroid. They put the dye in my body to make sure the cancer didn't spread to any other parts of my body, and which it didn't. And then that was 2011. 2018, diagnosed with breast cancer. Went in for my annual checkup. 2 days later, the doctor called me, the radiologist called me back and said that I needed to come back. So I went back and they did an ultrasound on my thyroid. And she said, looking at my mammogram from 2 years ago, it looked different. So the ultrasound showed a spot on my left breast. So she asked me, did I want to do a needle biopsy or did I want to wait and do a wait and see for 6 months? I said, no, I want to do the needle biopsy. I don't want to wait and see because things change too fast. So did the needle biopsy, and they told me my report would be sent to my doctor. June the 4th, I went in to see my doctor. He said, Miss Whitfield, I have your doctor's, your report. And I'm sorry, but you have breast cancer. And now I have a history of lumpy breast and dense breast. So I thought he was going to say something like that, but he said breast cancer. But he said, you have stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma, which is cancer of the milk ducts. And he said it's basically inside the milk duct, hasn't spread it anywhere else. So he said, I'm gonna refer you to a breast surgeon. You can go there and they will discuss your report with you. He discussed everything and we came up to a conclusion that I would have a lumpectomy. So I had the lumpectomy. My family and I, we all checked into doctor's hospital. We had the surgery. He removed the cancerous tissue. He removed 1 lymph node. And he said, I believe we got all the cancer. I did my follow-up, visit with my doctor. And he said, we removed all the cancer. He said, but I'm gonna need to refer you to a medical oncologist and a radiation oncologist. So I met with my radiation oncologist and he explained to me how he would do the radiation. He showed me all the equipment, introduced me to the team of doctors. Oh, they were excellent. Excellent team of doctors. They told me I needed 20 rounds of radiation. I'm telling y'all, radiation ain't no joke neither now. You think about chemo is bad, radiation too. I did 20 rounds of radiation. I had to go every day at the same time. I could not lose any weight. I could not gain any weight. Every day I came home, I was just exhausted from the radiation. But I had a good support team. My family took me, my coworkers took me, everybody was there for me. They would drive me to my appointments, bring me back home, bring me food, they're calling, they're checking on me. I have excellent support team. Then I met with my medical oncologist doctor, and she said, Ruby, you do not need chemo. Your oncotype score is between 0 and 25. If it was over 25, I would need chemo. So she said, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put you on a 5-year pill. I started taking letrozole I have to take it for 5 years. And she also referred me to a genetic, told me to do genetic testing and do bone density. I did my genetic testing. I had none of my genes had cancer. That was cancer-free there. Did my bone density test, and that was fine. And she put me on letrozole, no side effects. She discussed all the side effects of letrozole. I've been on it for 3 years. I'm doing excellent. I follow up with my doctor's appointments, my mammogram. Every 6 months I was doing mammogram appointments. But now I'm back to every year. I do my bone density every year. I just do everything that I know what to do. They told me to exercise. They said exercise is the biggest part of fighting cancer.
Wow.
Plus your nutrition. I joined a nutrition club. I joined a survivorship program. Girl, I am living my best life now.
Yes.
I thank God I'm here and I'm still here. Hallelujah. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And Sister Ruby, I will tell you, you probably are one of the most athletic people I know who've come back from having a cancer diagnosis. And we're going to get into that because I want to talk about that specifically because you just thoroughly amazed me coming back and just thriving, just the joy. There's something about a sisterhood when you go through a crisis like this. There's a bond, there are relationships that you form that are just they're just awesome, and you need that support. Yes. You need that sister with that energy that says, hey, you need to get out and exercise, or that one that says, girl, what are you eating? You need to have people like that in your life. And then you need somebody that knows how to pray.
Yes.
And that brings me to Jimmy Jones. I'm going to call her Jimmy Jones, but respectfully, you know, I want to call her Mother Jimmy Jones. Mother Jones.
I've just been fascinated listening to the other stories. And
Yes.
I'll tell you, this journey has been really something that I did not expect.
Mhm.
I'm 74 years old, but in 2019, as usual, I always go to my mammogram appointments every year. I'm right on every October. You find me getting my exam.
Mhm.
So November 2019, I had my routine exam. And while the technician had done her part, she had taken the film and she took them to the doctor who was looking at the film. And the first time he said, oh, have her to, take more pictures. That's not uncommon. That didn't bother me a bit. Then she came back and took the pictures and took them back. She said, take more pictures. And this is number 3. We ended up to 3 pictures now. Then she went back, took the pictures, took them back to him. We did this 6 times. Before we got to number 6, of course, I knew something that, this is not good. So I'm saying to myself, oh my God, no. Because I had always said I would never have cancer. No kind. I'm just not having it. That was my profession. That was what I believed. And before even, let me back it up a little bit, because in 1980 something, 86, 87, I had my routine exam and I had it on that Friday. And Saturday morning, I was in my salon. The nurse called and said, Ms. Jones, the doctor would like for you to come for another test. And I'm saying, what's wrong? She said, oh, nothing's wrong. I said, no, you would not be calling me on a Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, if nothing's wrong. What's wrong? She says, well, he thought he saw something. Okay, all right. Well, that gave me a chance to, between Friday and Monday, for the Lord and I to have a conversation. So when I got there Monday morning, she put me on the table and put the gels and doing, and she says, well, which breast was it? I'm saying, what do you mean? I didn't call you or y'all call me. I don't know. So she said, you prayed this way, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. So that was 1980 something. And then back in 2000, I believe it was 2010, another routine exam on the table again. And this time the doctor wanted to be sure, because when they checked, they wanted me to have a biopsy because something didn't look right again. But I don't know why we had to get to the biopsy part, because actually the machine had a glitch in it. It was brand new, it was high tech, it was fast, in depth, it did everything deep, penetrating searching. And it found out it wasn't me, it was the machine. So, okay, we got through that one. I said, Lord, this enemy, he is really trying to plant something in my head, but I'm not receiving it. So in 2019, when I had all these tests, when I'm getting the pictures taken and we're coming back and he's looking in and sending me back. But, I really thank the Lord, because he was determined. He thought he saw something and he did not let me go, just push me off to the side. When I think about that, I said, God, that was God right there. He put somebody there to make sure things did not go in another direction. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. So he says, I want you to go and see, have a biopsy. So I had that biopsy. And I was referred to Dr. Hampton over in Doctors Community Hospital. And she said, I will let you know the results. So when the results came, my husband was with me and we sitting there. He says, she said, I have not seen the results. We're going to see them together. And I said, okay. So she said, Miss Jones, she opened it up, looked at it. You have cancer. She says, but it's stage 1. And she says, and I can get this. She says, I know I can get this. When I'm taking in the fact that I have cancer in the first place, because, Lord, how in the world did this happen? Because my profession is, I'm not having it. And so, but God can put you in a place, the calmness that I experienced. No, I did not panic. I know that's him. Well, I'm not a panicky kind of person anyway, but that's not the point. I did not panic. This is the worst thing that I felt that could have happened to me.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at my husband, I guess we looking at each other. So on the ride back home, before I got to, before we got to 193, which is, anyway, before we got home good, I called my pastor.
Mhm.
I called Pastor Jordan and I told him what was going on. And he prayed. And that was enough. I needed him to know what was going on. I needed that prayer support and I got it.
Mhm.
So we had the surgery. She said she took out 5 lymph nodes. And I've had to have I've gone to treatments for the lymph to move the fluid through my arm, the right arm, to get it flowing like it's supposed to. And the surgery went well. I did not need chemo, but I did have to have radiation. I had 5 consecutive days of radiation twice a day. They had put a balloon in. That was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen in my life. A balloon stuck in the side of your breast. And when you go back for radiation, they hook up the coils that connect to the balloon, and the radiation goes through all of that. Technology is something else. So when that ended in 5 days, that was it for me. I wouldn't have known I had cancer, except when she went to take that balloon out and she didn't use the proper anesthesia. That thing hurt more than anything I had been through. The removal of the balloon was my worst experience. Other than that, I would never have even known I had cancer. So I'm telling you, and I felt nothing. When he told me that there was a little lump, you have to tell me there was a lump. There's no way I would have ever known it was there. I felt no lumps, no bumps, no anything. Totally smooth.
Yeah.
So it just lets me know how each of us is so different. You know, you feel lumps and bumps, and some feel nothing. I would have gone on forever, even though I'm having my checkups. But had that doctor not persisted and insisted on checking, I wouldn't have known I had it.
Wow.
That's my story. And I continue. I'm well. I go for my checkups. I'm due to go for my mammogram next month. And I already have my appointment. I'm ready. I'm set to go.
Yes.
And I'll let them continue to do what they do, and I'll do what I do.
Right.
Trust in God.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And you know, I can take a page from each of your stories. You know, I was listening to Joseph Prince once, and he was talking about how cancer sometimes occurs after there's been some type of episode, some type of situation, some tragedy of some sort. I don't find that to be true of everyone's story, but I can find that in my story, having had the aortic dissection first, and then 15 months later, diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. Now, the aortic dissection was supposed to kill me. Let me just put that out there. Not many people recover or even live through that. But the Lord spared my life. But I felt like something was wrong after I had the cutting edge surgery, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I thought it was something from the aortic dissection, you know, that maybe I hadn't healed well or something. But it alerted me to want to do some checking. So I did go to my doctors, and they said, well, we don't see anything related to the aortic or the procedure that was done. So they said, why don't you just go see an ENT? Because I began to hear ringing in my ear. Couldn't figure out, why am I hearing this ringing in my ear? It was very unsettling. But while I was on the phone, they said, it's time for your mammogram. So I was like, okay, well, let me just get my mammogram. And Mother Jimmy, to your point, I felt nothing, no lumps, no nothing. Now, I also had cystic breast. Ruby, you talked about dense breast. I had dense breast. I did have a follow-up mammogram before, but they didn't find anything. And that was years before this time. So when I went and learned that, wow, you have breast cancer, that was the last thing I was expecting to hear, especially 15 months later, still healing from a very traumatic situation. And here I am now facing triple negative breast cancer. You know, sometimes you don't get the normal, you know, you get triple negative, and that cancer is the most aggressive of breast cancers. And so I did have to go through chemotherapy. I did have to go through radiation. My story is a little bit different. The chemotherapy, I only did one round, but that one round took everything in my body out. All the hair, fingernails black, gums black. It did a job on me, and then had to follow up with the radiation as well. Could not continue the radiation because it was doing something to my heart. And Crystal, you talked about how you had to lean more on a holistic way of managing your cancer, which is what I had to do. And I, you know, everyone's situation is different. Everyone needs to seek counsel for the decisions that they make concerning their care. I sought the Lord's counsel, and that gave me comfort in making the decisions that I had to make for me. Crystal, if you could please just tell me a little bit more, because I will tell you, when I learned that I had breast cancer, and I learned that Crystal had breast cancer and really didn't know, I'm just so glad she's sitting with us tonight, because at the time I was going through chemotherapy and we really didn't get an opportunity to really share, you know, our stories. But I will say, Crystal, you were very instrumental to me when I sat down and spoke with you, and you shared with me about the holistic way of eating, and trying to manage, you know, the cancer diagnosis with that. I was still doing chemotherapy, but that was a piece of information that was so instrumental to me. So can you share just a little bit more about how you utilize food, and the way you may have changed how you were living and using food and eating food to help you through your cancer treatment and survival, of course?
Absolutely. So I sought this naturopathic doctor, Dr. Sharps, and he was very radical in his expectation, almost comparable to how rigid the westernized medicine was. Right then and there, he was like, no meat. All meat is gone. You can only eat raw food. So that was really an adjustment. And his thing was clearing out my body, because I had had so much radiation. And from how he explained it to me, a lot of that poison gets caught up into your muscles, gets caught up into your body. So I had had a couple of therapeutic massages, and I don't know if you had that, Sister Jackie, but that was pretty bad. I was, you know, afterwards I was, you know, vomiting. It was just, it wasn't the nice feel good thing that people, when they come from a massage, it wasn't that great. So he had me on this, what was it, chelation substance. It was a bunch of herbs, parsley, nuts, black walnuts, all blended together. And the idea was for it to draw out a lot of the heavy metals, because the idea behind that is those heavy metals, even from the pans that we cook on, the aluminum, that wears down your immune system. So his whole thing was building up my immune system so that I can fight off the cancer should it come back. And I knew it worked because I had fillings and it was pulling on my fillings. So it was hurting, you know, it was hurting. So I know it was doing something, down to things like bark. I mean, I was eating stuff that I just would not have imagined that I would have to put in my body. So it was definitely a commitment. and also the visualization, meditation. That was every day visualizing the cancer gone, visualizing what it looked like on the other side of that. And I did the raw food diet for about, I want to say 8 months, 8 months. And I really started hating food. Honestly, I just lost my desire to want to eat food. So I slowly started integrating to a vegan. And then ultimately now where I am is a, I guess you call it a pescatarian. But back then, nutrition was, it was key.
Right.
To everything that I was putting in. I had to think about everything that I was eating.
Yeah, and that is absolutely right. Your recommendation for me to follow up with Dr. Sharp was just the same. He wrote out a health recommendation for me specifically, and it was rigid. It was rigid, but I will tell you what happened. For 1 week, I went to a completely, well, I stopped eating meat, as you said, stopped eating meat altogether. I went completely to an organic fruit and vegetable a regimen every day, fruit and vegetables. I started on a Monday. By that Saturday, I felt like I had the full-blown flu, and all over my arms and my legs were little black pin marks all over, little black pin marks. And I called Dr. Sharp immediately because I said, something is wrong. But what I learned was that something was working. And it is true, food can heal your body. Food can heal your body. And he told me, he said, your body is detoxing fast. He said, your body's detoxing fast. You might need to pull back some, you know. And I did. I will tell you that Sunday, I went and got me a piece of chicken. That Sunday, I had to go get me a piece of chicken. I'm telling you. Now the chicken was baked. Okay, I didn't go get fried chicken, but I got some chicken, and I will tell you, my sister was thanking me. But I will tell you, it did work for me. Don't ever let anybody tell you that food, that natural food from the ground, does not have purpose in our lives. And I'm glad, Crystal, you just being real about it, because you said you got tired of eating grass, you know. But if that is what
my gosh.
You know, but if that grass is going to be what's going to sustain my life and save my life, you know, and prolong my life, oh, give me grass. You know, cows like grass. You know?
Yep.
Yes. So I will tell you, that was probably one of the best recommendations that I could have gotten. I did meet with Dr. Sharp. I also met with another holistic physician in Baltimore who was very instrumental in guiding my care. But that part about silencing myself was very important too. And making sure that I put those positive things into what I was not only eating, but into what I was thinking. He was very, very firm about praying in the morning, spending that time just praying, reading your Bible. People don't believe these things, but I will tell you, they work, and they will work for anyone. He told us about, you know, having lemon water in the morning. That was something else that was very, very key for us to have. But the diet was strict, but it was definitely something that I still have it. And I do look back to it, because I know that we can kind of get a little lax in how we're eating. But we need to go back to those things sometimes to just stay on track, because we've, you know, gone through this particular situation with cancer. Exercise. Ruby, I will tell you, you blew me away. The joy of exercising. And I know you teamed up with an organization. I'd like for you to just kind of share how you got involved with that organization. And I'll let you share more about what that was all about.
I teamed up with several organizations. First, I was not a breast cancer survivor, but I always had teamed up with Susan G. Komen, Race for the Cure.
Right.
The team captain, Refreshing Spring Walkers, I was the team captain for that. But once I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I hooked up with GW Cancer Institute. I joined the nutrition club. And the nutrition club, we discussed, nutrition, how to take care of your skin. We talked about exercising. We just talk about different subjects dealing with cancer, your foods you eat, your supplements that you eat. We just talk about every subject dealing with cancer. And it's not just for cancer, breast cancer, for any forms of cancer. And for caretakers, caregivers, anyone that's open to it, we meet every first Monday of each month, but now we're doing Zoom. And also join the survivors group, and that's for all cancers. And just to hear each person's testimony is such a uplift. It's an uplift. I remember when I first started taking letrozole, that thing had me, I could not sleep. I could not sleep. I was taking Synthroid for my thyroid because I don't have a thyroid anymore, and your thyroid controls your metabolism. So that's why I exercise all the time, trying to keep that girly figure, So anyhow, I was at the survival class one Monday, and I was telling my instructor, I said, I can't sleep at night. I said, this medicine keeps me up all night. Some nights I don't even sleep at all. So she said, maybe you need to take your thyroid pill in the morning and take your Synthroid in the morning and take your letrozole at night. Because I was taking both of them at the same time, but it seemed like I was up all the time. I might sleep in the daytime, but I can't sleep at night. So I started taking letrozole at 6 o'clock at dinner time, and that really helped me to fall asleep at least around 11, 12 at night and stuff like that. But I just love the different support groups. They really, really help you with your nutrition and different testimonies. They, just hearing everybody's testimony, it helps you, uplift you, and you meet different people. It's not just young folk, it's all age groups in there, really young people sometimes. I'm like, wow. But hey, cancer, we have a life happens, but we still live it.
Yes.
Life happens and we still got to live anyway.
Yes.
So, that's all I have to say.
Awesome. And really that's just the truth of it, hearing and being in the company of other people who have survived and who are thriving. Yes. It's more to it than just, living, thriving, and being able to encourage other people through the sharing of stories. Right. Which is really what tonight is about, sharing our stories, all very, very different. But the common denominator, I think, with all of us is that one, yes, we did have cancer. That's the first common denominator. The other common denominator is that we're all still sitting here having this conversation. So that means we're all still living, and we're living with hope. Yes. Mother Jimmy, I know that, we know you, if you don't mind, in the vocation of prayer and how instrumental, we know it, but as we encourage other women who are either going through a crisis like breast cancer, or maybe it's something else that they may be going through. But for the purpose of what we came together tonight for, how has prayer been instrumental in getting through this breast cancer diagnosis, treatment, and now living through the process?
It has been key. That's my lifeline. That was my first recourse. When the doctor said cancer, I knew I knew even before she said it. I said, I prayed because, of course, I didn't want the answer to be what it became. But I prayed before, and just prayer is the key for everything for me. That's my first recourse. That's where I go first. I have to trust God. I just have to. If whatever the answer is going to be, He will be the one who makes that decision. And I had to make up my mind, you think, God, am I going out like this? But think about it, even with the praying, I just never really thought that it would be serious. It sounds crazy, maybe. But I just trusted. I think I just trusted that God knew what I desired, and He knew me, and He knew His plans for me, even though I have no idea what He was planning. But I just didn't expect it to go the way it did. When she did say cancer, I really did not expect that, because I'd already prayed, Lord, I don't want this. And we go blah, blah, blah. Well, Lord, this is what I want. But the will of the Lord is going to be done. Now, Lord, help me to be in your will, and help me to walk according to the way that you want me to walk. Help me to do what you tell me to do. And in the meantime, I got to trust you that everything that's being done, He has me in mind. And I'm not going anywhere until He's ready for me to go. And the major point is, when I do go, be ready. And I think that really stabilizes everything for me. We're not going to stay here forever, but there are decisions that we need to make that will help us to do whatever it is we have to do. If you have to be sick, you know that you have to have somebody on your side. And I can't think of anybody better than the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's my first go-to. I don't have anywhere else to go. Nobody else could help me. My husband, he loved you, your family love you. But they can't save you. They can't heal you. They can't deliver you. So prayer for me is my lifeline. If I didn't have the Lord to go to, then I'd be in big, big trouble. I would have nothing, because nobody could have taken care of the aortic dissection problem. Nobody could have taken care of the thyroid problem. Nobody could have taken care of those two those episodes. My God. I'm telling you, He's God. Now, I don't care who believes what. I don't care how you feel about it. I'm telling you, I know it's God. Yes. And when I had to have surgery on my arm, and I'm going to mention that real quick, I had to have surgery on my arm. 2019 was over the chart, and then 2020 finished it. But in 2019, I had to have surgery on my arm, and I have determined I was not going to have the surgery. I said, Lord, you can heal me because you're God, and that's what I want you to do. Now, who am I telling God what to do? But yes, I thought I could tell Him, but He's going to do what He wants to. He's going to be God. He's going to do what He wants to do. So pain can hit you so badly that you will make up your mind that you're going to do what has to be done, regardless as to what it. And I'm telling you, the pain did hit. So I said, all right, Lord, do I have to go through surgery? And the Lord said, and He answered me so fast. He said, Jimmy, have the surgery. I'll be with you. And it happened so quickly. I said, no, that was too quick. God doesn't answer that fast. He doesn't always answer me that quickly. So I said, no, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna ask Him again. No, that was too fast. So I asked Him again. I said, Lord, now I know you. I don't want to have the surgery. You understand that. But if you tell me to do it, I'll do it. He said, Jimmy, have the surgery. I will be with you. What else did I need to know? He's going to be with me in whatever I have to go through. He's going to take care of me. I trusted Him, and here I am. I'm still here. He took me through that surgery, and there have been so many other things that I've had to go through. We all have. But it was God who took me through. Yes. Nobody but Him. And I trusted Him then. I trust Him now. Yes. Whatever the situation, whatever comes, I have to go to the Lord and ask Him, and He answers. It's not always the answer Jimmy wants. That's not the point. His will is going to be done. And we have to align ourselves with his will. And
Awesome.
submit. And just submit.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. And the key thing that you said was that he will always be with us. You know, I found the miracle was in going through the process. You know, we all want an immediate healing, right?
No.
Nobody wants to have breast cancer. That's not something you sit around and you ask for. But I found the miracle was in the process of really being able to go through chemotherapy. As anyone who's had it knows that takes you to a whole nother place. It doesn't just affect your body, it affects your mind. It affects how you think. It affects your ability to think. Mm-hmm. It affects your ability to remember to think and to speak. And so it takes you to places, but I saw how God navigated that whole process. You know, I can look back on it and be so grateful and so thankful. Crystal, I can only imagine. You talk about God being with you, and we're talking about hope, right? But we're also talking about nerve. You have a different nerve when you come through breast cancer, okay? And maybe any cancer. There's a resolve that you have that's like nothing. You start doing things that you used to be afraid to do, right? You know, you get this boldness. You get emboldened to do things. Am I right? Just talk to us just a little bit, because to get stage 4, and we know stage 4 of anything, doctors, one, they don't like giving out that kind of diagnosis, but when they do, you kind of know it's there, right? Mm-hmm. How did you? What kind of black eye? Let me just put it like this: what kind of black eye did you give the devil when he came back to try you again? Because I think he had a whole lot of nerve. There was a whole lot of nerve, you know. And I'm not saying it was the devil, but the fact that cancer showed up again. Oh,
came
you
back,
had to give him a black eye
again. Came back again. And you're right. There is a certain resolve that, of course, the things you go through that don't kill you, you just realize like, oh my goodness, thank you, Jesus. You know, you just feel like, okay, all right, I actually made it through that, because there was a time where I was looking for somebody else who had survived the same cancer. So I would go to support groups, but I wasn't getting the same, like when you were saying, Ruby, you went and you were encouraged. Mm-hmm. And I used to feel kind of shameful with saying it, but I wasn't exactly encouraged initially in the support groups, because I didn't hear my story. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't hear anyone who was in there that had survived the cancer that I did. And I was still going through, you know, so it's just kind of like, I was looking for a me, you know, in those things. And back then it's I wish I had have been me to someone else, you know what I mean? Been more encouraging in that circle instead of so busy looking for encouragement myself instead of being encouraged. So when it came back after going through even the blood transfusion, it was just like, I felt like a science experiment, you know, it was just like everything. And I just thought, all right, round 2, you know, it was kind of like, ding, I was ready. You know, I was ready. And then prayer was much more of, it wasn't just, because of course I was raised in the church and you pray because you're supposed to, and you know, it's like you're supposed to pray. But I really kind of came to a realization that no, prayer is actually like, it's a call to arms. It's real. You know, it wasn't just a routine, okay, say your prayers. Like it was really a conversation, a relationship. Like, okay, like you were saying, Sister Jimmy, like, okay, this is my lifeline. Like, I have to rely on you again, because at the end of me is it's nothing, it's God at the end of me. So it's like, okay, we can do this again, right? Like, you're gonna bring me through again, right? So in that, I felt much more confident, because I think the first go round, I really, and I'm so thankful for the saints at Refreshing Springs, my mom, my church home in Philly. I feel like they carried me more until I could carry myself, because I really didn't have the confidence. I did not have, I just didn't. I just didn't. So I think the power of prayer from really pray for myself and really get into a relationship with God myself, to believe that, okay, all right, if he cures it or if he doesn't. I think that was the piece that came with it. Because I didn't want to die, because I kept hearing this is, on the thing, prognosis, is non-survival. So I didn't want to die necessarily. And not to say I wanted to die the second time around, but it was like, okay, however this goes, God, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you.
Yeah. And it's funny, I did the 50-50. I was like, now I could die.
Yes.
And I could live. I said, well, why not choose life? It just got real simple for me. Why not choose life? And that was how I was with the aortic dissection. See, because when they're coming to you, telling you could die, when you're walking around a ticking time bomb, and that if this aorta has already formed the aneurysm, if it blows out, a sister is gone. I already had to make a decision to live. You know what I mean? I had to make a decision to live. And you're right. So when you're confronted with another crisis, you kind of carry that with you. Like, okay, here we go again. And I will say, I did ask God why. Okay. I'm thinking 15 months later, Jesus, 15 months later, this couldn't have happened years, but that why lasted seconds. It didn't last long.
Wow.
Because I came to that resolve and I began to think about what God had already healed me from. And see, we can take a page from that on any level. If I had a bad day yesterday and I enter today and I see today is a little interesting, I can look back and say, but yesterday, if you took me through yesterday, guess what? Today got a chance. Today has a chance.
Yes.
And while we're dealing with things that are so much more serious, because cancer is killing folk, let's just be honest.
It is.
Yeah.
Crystal, he left us here for a reason. So while you felt like you were needing to be in a place to be encouraged by someone sharing your story, you're now the storyteller. You can tell somebody about metastatic, stage 4 breast cancer, return, put down, rejected, because hope lives here. Okay. Yes. Ruby can sit down and say, messed around with my thyroid. Okay. Then added breast cancer. But she danced all over that thing, exercised, got out there with those support groups, did what she needed to do. Why? Because hope lives there. Jimmy Jones said, I don't even know why I'm at the doctor's. But I'm going to go ahead on here, do what I need to do, pray first, consult my pastor, but I'm going to pray first. I'm going to rely on prayer because hope lives here.
Yes.
And so we're all living testaments of hope living here. Lives is active.
Yes.
It's an action word, right?
Yes.
Because we are living and
present
lives here. I am overjoyed. I am thoroughly excited about hearing your stories tonight. I just want each of you just to take a minute just to encourage someone who might be tuning in, and, you know, just going through the process or right in the process. What would you and what can you say to encourage that woman or man that may be going through a breast cancer diagnosis, or even someone who's already gone through it, but still hasn't quite recovered? Crystal, what could you say to that person?
I would definitely tell that person that you cannot just listen and hear the doctor's report, because they know based on their experience. But we know God has the ultimate answer. He is the way maker and the healer. So you cannot listen to that and take that for just the truth, because that's their truth, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your truth. And don't be afraid to go outside the box a little bit. You know, you don't have to go that traditional route, and you can incorporate both, but do your research, reach out. And as Ruby was saying, having that support system around you, don't be a martyr. Find those prayer warriors, find those people that will be in your corner, that will help you when you are feeling low and you just don't have it in you, for them to speak life into you, for them to speak it into you when you can't do it for yourself. But you can make it. You can make it, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't, because you can.
Ruby?
I would say to anyone that's going through any type of cancer, trust God. Trust God. I know him as a healer. I know I went through thyroid cancer. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I came back to my car when I left the doctor's office. And I said, God, here I go again. I said, you healed me before, and you will heal me again. And I heard God say, I got you. I said, stand on God's word. Yes, you can go to the doctor, you can get the diagnosis, but you got to have faith and trust in God. Do your mammograms. Know your own body. Like Mother Jimmy said, know your own body. If the doctor is so adamant about finding what need to be done, let him do it. God made the doctors. He invented science. That's our problem. We need to trust in the doctors also, because God made them. God made them. He know all about them too. So he put them in our lives to help us too. And I say to everybody that's going to know your body, live a whole life. Enjoy your life. Don't get tied down on sicknesses and just bring yourself down. Stay around positive people that will help lift you up, and have a good support system. Pray and ask God to deliver and set you free from whatever you're going through.
Awesome. Awesome. Jimmy Jones?
These ladies have said it all, but the first thing when you said it, the first thing that came to my mind was, don't panic. Don't panic. Know where your source is. Know who your source is. You have to know that first. And once you know, if you know that you have a relationship, and I was glad to hear Crystal say relationship with the Lord. It's, you know, everybody knows God these days. God this, God that. Relationship is what makes the difference.
Yes.
Where you hear things that scare the socks off of us, but don't panic. Go to your source. And if you have the relationship with God, that is your source. He will bring you through. I invite all of us to develop that relationship. And when I say that, I'm asking you to consider Jesus, that he loves you. And I don't care what you're going through, he's not turning his back on you. You can turn your back on him, but he will never, ever turn his back on you. He promised never to leave us. And he has proven it to the four of us. He has
Yes.
never left us because we're still here. We've been through, but we're still here. We have the Lord in our lives. We have a relationship. We're saved. We have accepted him as our Lord and Savior. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, even right this moment. If you would just say, Lord, I have sinned against you, and I want you to forgive me for all my sins, it's a done deal. Just like that. Lord, forgive me for all my sins. Make me your child. It's done, just like that. And that's what I invite you to do right now. Ask the Lord to save you. Ask him to come into your life. Ask him to be the keeper of your soul, so that when he comes, you're ready to go back with him. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. And he's what we need to go through while we're here. He is who we need to go through while we're here. And so for anybody who is, even dealing with breast cancer, or just, it may not even be cancer, it just might be life. Life brings all kinds of challenges. He is who will get us and take us through the challenges. So I thank you, Mother Jimmy, for the invitation to Christ. I want to thank each and every one of you, my sisters, for sharing your awesome